And we hung out together, got to be very good friends. We did a lot of cool stuff together. And when I became Bobby Blake, now dig this, the boss of the studio was a Russian Jew with an accent. He sat me on his lap, and I was going to star in a movie. That's another story about how I became a star. It only took me 3 years, and my parents didn't do it, nobody did it, me and God did it. Said, you can't have Dan Daly and Donna Reed for a mother or father and be Mickey Gubitosi. Give me some names. And he said, okay, you're Bobby Blake. Now you're one of us. Those were his words. Now you're one of us. And I moved out of the Little Rascals, and I moved over to the other place with Elizabeth Taylor. She was my pal. Mm-hmm. We sang and danced. I loved her with all my heart. And I became a white kid. Now, what's weird is, when I was in New Jersey, I lived in an Italian community, and we were number one. Italians were the best people in the world. Now, Jews were human beings, but they were second-class human beings. They pushed carts, and they bought pots and junk, and those were Jews. Black people were subhuman. Mm-hmm. They had all those weird names for them, and I was Italian, so I was it. Those people, those are Jews. My father used to play a game with me when I was dancing and singing. If I did it right, I got to go over to the couch and punch the pillow, and he'd say, hit the Jew on the head, hit the Jew on the head. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but that's where that was at. Mm. Now I come to MGM, and it's upside down. The whole thing is upside down.
You're on the bottom now.
I'm at the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm at the bottom, and guess who's at the top? The Jews.
And buckwheat is underneath you.
Buckwheat is underneath. But I loved him with all my heart. He and I were gangsters together.
Gangster kids.
We broke into candy machines. We stole people's cigarettes. Buckwheat and I did stuff together that when I go to heaven, he's going to look at me and fall on the floor laughing.
You mentioned Liz Taylor.
Yeah.
Of course, she passed away, sadly, earlier this year. Big auction the other day, millions of dollars.
She was the same age I was, so we sat next to each other.
And because
I couldn't read or write.
And she read and wrote for you.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, suddenly there came a tapping as if someone gently rapping at my chamber door. 'Tis the wind and nothing more, the raven. She loved Edgar Allan Poe. And we would go out on the porch, especially in the rain, and she would read Edgar Allan Poe to me. I have a weird brain. I'm severely dyslexic, but I have brain damage because my father used to knock me out. I don't use my eyes at all. I use my ears. If I listen to you, I know you inside out. If I look at you, I get confused. I learn a beautiful group of chords on a guitar. If I don't play them for 2 weeks, I forget the chords. I can still hear them, and I can still sing them, but I can't play them. I've learned to type 20 times. I don't have any place to store that information. It leaves me.
How do you learn your lines? Listen.
I learn everything.
So they're read to you.
She used to read me Edgar Allan Poe, and I would give it back to her. Mm-hmm. That's how I became a star in Moki. Another kid was supposed to test that day, and he couldn't test. So they came to the Little Rascals and said, we need somebody who can learn the lines quick. We got 20 minutes to get him on the set because he has to test with the leading ladies because the kid who's going to star in the movie is sick. And Mrs. Carter said, he can do it. And they said, well, he can't do it. He can't even read. And I couldn't read. She said, give me the pages. She read the pages to me and said, Mickey, give me the pages back. And I gave her the pages back with everybody's dialogue. And they said, come on, kid, you're testing. After I tested, they called the other kid and said, stay home. And that's how I got to star in a movie. Mm-hmm. And that's how Mickey Gubitosi became Bobby Blake, is because my ears have worked for me all my life. My brain is a weird brain to start with. And when I tell you I have no social skills, I mean that. Remember what John Garfield taught me? Life is a rehearsal. Mm-hmm. Your performance is real. That's the story of my life.
You keep saying weird. Maybe the way your brain works isn't weird. Maybe you're more gifted than the rest of us, or gifted
I'm
out
a
different way.
savant in some ways.
Yeah.
You know how savants learn
You're
stuff?
you're like Rain Man or something.
But that's okay, because I'm still here. I mean, they haven't opened up my chest yet.
Yeah.
I'm still walking. I'm still dancing.
Let me
I
ask
still enjoy looking at the ladies. It's okay to be here. I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
But if I leave, I got no regrets, brother. I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, it's been a ride. Whoever gets this seat better buckle up, because there ain't nothing easy about it. This is a bull.
Both nights in this conversation, you have laid out your life story. And it is a story in a very real way. Let you do that. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Get comfortable. No.
I'm good.
The story of your life in a very real way is a story of not being wanted. Not being wanted by your parents, not being wanted by others, being forced to change by studios. How have you navigated?
But I'm not unique.
No, but
Natalie Wood was my very best friend, and she was exactly the same way. I knew Michael Jackson through Spanky.
Yeah.
And Michael was that way.
Yeah.
Michael could never get enough. He could never get enough. The whole world loved Natalie, and it was never enough. And in a sad way, I have to admit that it is that way with me, that I still feel lonely at night, even if I'm in somebody's arms. If you don't connect in that way, in the magic of the birth canal, then you spend the rest of your life. There's a place like Natalie, like so many others that I've known, because we sort of hook up with each other. If anybody is like me, I'm going to sort of find him. And you spend the rest of your life trying to get that woman that's supposed to love you to take you to her breast and say, I'm glad you're here. Welcome to the world.
How is it, I'm really curious about this. How is it then that you create a life, that you build a life, that you advance a life, when from the very beginning you don't feel wanted, when from the very beginning you don't feel loved? How do you get beyond that?
The indomitable spirit that God gives you. I believe your soul is separate from your mother. I believe your soul is separate from everything.
I agree with that.
I believe that nobody can kill your soul except you. And that what some people have called incredible luck, some people have called indomitable spirit, some people have called amazing grace. I've had people say, Robert, you were born in a state of grace. You had an angel on your shoulder. I don't know which of those is true, but I know that it is true of all the people that I know that are like me. Natalie had to be a movie star, and it never was enough. But that's okay, because there are other gifts besides parental love. Can you imagine what it's like to be 8 years old and saying, I'm going to get that job and I'm going to be a movie star? That's what I did when I was 8 years old. When Miss Carter said, read this stuff, I read it and I said, I'm going to get that job. I don't care who has that movie. I'm going to get that job. When I read In Cold Blood in Life magazine, I said, to hell with Paul Newman. I'm doing that part. And it doesn't always work. But all it has to do is work one time, and you know that there's something larger than you in life. How can I be 78 years old and not be dead? How come my hips still work and I haven't eaten vegetables in 20 years? I say, feed the vegetables to the cow and I'll eat the cow. And every time I go to the doctor, she looks at me and shakes her head. I smoked 4 packs a day. When you were watching Beretta, I had Skoal in my lip. I had Red Man in my cheek, and I was smoking cigarettes. Buckwheat and I used to follow people around. You know, in those days, they had ashtrays that were sand. Mm-hmm. That's how people, as soon as they stick it in the sand, we take it out and smoke it. We smoke together. Buckwheat died very young. Everybody I know died very young.
You said Beretta, and I can't let this conversation end without talking about Beretta. So just Tell me about that show.
Well, I'll give you a very
One of the greatest theme songs in the history of television.
I wrote those words.
I know, and Sammy Davis Jr. killed it.
Hey,
I loved it.
keep your eye on the sparrow.
When the going gets narrow.
And there was some dirty
Don't
ones.
do the crime if you can't do the time.
Don't-
No, don't do it.
Don't drink.
Don't go to bed with the price on your head. No, don't do it.
Don't put your feet on a one-way street.
Don't do it.
There's a whole lot of
Oh, okay.
The tragedy is, and I'll be very brief,
Sure.
people do a series, and you can follow this, you're a show business guy. You do a series when you're on the way up or when you're on the way down. Peter Falk started by doing a series. He became a movie star. When he was still doing a movie star, he did a series. Jimmy Garner did the same thing. I was a movie star. I was working in great films with great people, and I went and did a series with no reason in the world to do it. And I've done things like that all my life. You know, so far so good. The guy who jumps off the phone from one window, I'm still doing okay. I don't know why I did Beretta. I had other movies to do. I just did Willie Boy. I had movies. I was cooking. I was at the top of my game. Electric Light in Blue was a very successful picture. Michael Eisner was the head of ABC. He wasn't the head of it, but he's a big deal. And he said, I want that guy in a cop show. Universal called me, and I said, okay, we don't have time for a pilot. ABC was like the bottom of the barrel. Michael Eisner was buying whatever the hell he could find on the streets. And he figured, if that guy's sucker enough to do a series right now when he's a movie star, I'm going to buy him. If I'm on my game, if I'm cooking, I mean, if I'm really smoking, as God is my judge, you can give me the telephone book and I can make the whole world cry. If I'm cooking, nobody ever taught me how to act or taught me how to make a movie. I was writing Berettas on the weekend and going in and shooting them on Monday. I directed half of them. Now you say, well, Robert, why didn't you ever take any credit for anything? That's another pathetic story. That's the same reason I did Beretta. I never took credit for anything. I told everybody my father was a genius who taught me how to. Spencer Tracy taught me how to act. I would sit on the stage and watch him, and he'd look over and he'd see me. When he did Judgment at Nuremberg, I was sitting right above him on the catwalk for the whole movie.
Just watching.
I can tell you stories about Spencer Tracy and Montgomery Clift. I was 5 feet above him on the catwalk all the way through Judgment at Nuremberg. And when I was a little kid, Buckwheat had his places where he liked to go, and I had my places, so we would share. But I'd like to go see Spencer Tracy, and we both wanted to go see the midgets on the yellow brick road because we were taller than they were, and that was cool. That was cool, and they were all drunk, and I knew how to drink, so it was all cool. So I did Beretta, and everybody was shaking their heads, saying, Robert's crazy, man. This is a disaster. ABC is a disaster. There's no pilot. They got 13 shows on the air, and they got nothing. I said, oh, yeah, watch this.
What made it work? What made it work? It connected.
I'm magic from the time I was 2 years old. When it comes to show business, I take a back seat to nobody. I'm sick as a dog. I'm crazy as a
road
rat.
lizard, yeah.
I mean, I'm crazy and I'm sick.
But you know
And
your
when
craft.
it comes to, I was born with it, and it's not a craft.
Yeah.
It's magic.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting you down for using that word.
No, it's
People who use the word craft, they say, well, Jackson Pollock knew his craft. That's why he painted great paintings. And well, you know, it's magic. Creating something is your relationship with what created you. Mm-hmm. You create something with what created you. Mm-hmm. If you don't understand that, then don't walk up to the easel and start painting. If you think that you're the painter, that you're this, and yeah, you can learn some technical stuff. You can learn how to get the plane off the ground, but God flies the plane.
But the gift flows through you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Why is this dancer, why am I watching this dancer and not that dancer? They both are doing the same steps and they're both great, but I'm drawn to the magic of this person. That's what Spencer Tracy had. Mm-hmm. And that's what I got from him, acting. And so if I wasn't so sick and so troubled, I probably would have had a completely different life. I may not have even been an actor. I may have been a musician. I love music better.
I was about to ask what you might have been if not an actor.
I couldn't get enough of the musicals at MGM.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Gene Kelly. You want to ask me who I am? I'm Gene Kelly. Second best is Spencer Tracy, but I'm Gene Kelly, man.
Yeah.
I was 2 years old, and I was dancing on the street. Nobody taught me how to dance. I just danced. Now, at MGM, everybody danced. Clark Gable danced in his screen test. But if you were good enough, you started acting, then you didn't dance anymore. So I got to be pretty good at acting, and I stopped dancing. But I loved to go on the sets and watch Gene Kelly and all those dancers. They all did the same thing. Coffee, Coca-Cola, Camel cigarettes, and Babe Ruth. That's what they all had. And I wanted to be right there in the middle of that world. There was something spectacular about dancing, about being able to make your body do something beautiful. And I don't mean just, yoga or something. I mean, dancing is the most primitive form of art. And I was always mesmerized, particularly by Gene Kelly, because I could tap dance. Anybody can tap dance. That's a mathematical thing. That's a, shuffle ball, yada, yada, yada. But when you can move and hypnotize people just with your body, that fascinated me.
Let me jump in for my time runs. I get about 2 minutes left here.
Oh.
It's been a wonderful conversation. You said, by my count, at least 3 or maybe 4 times, if I weren't so sick, if I weren't so sick,
Yes.
if I weren't so sick. I know what you mean by
Yes.
that. Let me ask whether or not in all these years you ever sought therapy? You ever talked to anybody?
I've been through a lot of different kinds of therapy. Yes, oh my God, I spent 30 years with one shrink. I published books for him, for sake. I gave the leash from my father and I gave it to him, and I spent 30 years with that dunce. I don't think there's anything wrong with therapy. I believe in group therapy. Let me just say this very briefly, and then you can cut some other stuff out, because this is important to me. I believe that like cures like. If you're a Vietnam vet, go into a group with non-vets. If you're an alcoholic, go into a group with alkies. Whatever like cures like. That's why I was hooked up with Natalie. That's why I was hooked up with Elizabeth. That's why I was hooked up with Michael. And I believe that in life. There is such a thing as one-on-one therapy, but if you've been sexually abused, if you've been emotionally abused, any of those things, you go where your people are. And there should be a therapist there too, but like cures like. If you're broken on the street, who's going to help you? The guy standing next to you who was broken on the street.
If you